YouTube, the Richician of Team Sorcerers here, and in this video I'm counting down my top 10 favourite traps. This was another one that was requested by Express Gaming. Excuse me. So let's get right into it and kick it off. So starting things off at number 10 is something that I used to side deck, but not anymore because I can't, which I'll explain shortly. Imperial Iron Wall, just because it's a hard counter to macro decks and boojins to a point, and Infernoids, although rather annoyingly Infernoids can just get around it by summoning Decatron, milling Patrulia and then popping it, which is annoying. But when it first came out, it was a godsend for me, because around about that time, we're talking September 2008 format, like in September, October time, in the early days of the Synchro era, and I was playing Prismagician, but rather annoyingly, macro decks were being played. A deck which Prismagician and Rainbow Neos just auto lose to, because with no graveyard we basically can't play, which is really annoying. Like, I was struggling so much. In fact, with Prismagician I think I only managed to beat it twice. One time was by pure luck, and another time, which was the last time I faced it with that deck, was because of some clever siding. I remember siding DD Survivor, just so I could have a chance, whereas with Rainbow Neos I only beat it once, but wasn't so lucky afterwards. But then I saw that this was a thing, and it was in the Zombie World structure deck, the one which brought Zombie World into the TCG and had Red Eye Zombie Dragon as the ultra rare promo thing, whatever you want to call it. Seemed like an odd choice considering it stops Book of Life being played, but I just had to get it, and when I did, it did help me out big time. And then later on it was actually a help against boojins, because it stopped the monsters in the graveyard which could banish themselves to do something, basically. Boojins were just so annoying back in 2014. They weren't nice to play against. They were one of my most hated decks once upon a time. Not so much anymore, because Kaiser Colosseum and Vanity's Emptiness are banned. Plus, there's just ways to deal with them a bit more easily. But anyway, Imperial Iron Wall was just amazing. Unfortunately, I can't side it in Dark Magician and Rainbow Neos anymore, because it turns off Dark Magical Circle and Ebon Illusion Magician, and also stops me using Varn's effect to banish a hero to add a poly, as well as banish Neos Fusion to protect a Neos Fusion monster. So if I was still siding it, it might be more of a hindrance than a help. I still love it though. And then in at number 9 is actually a love-hate card, but I still like it anyway. Magic Cylinder, a classic battle trap. It's a misconception that some people seem to think I hate it, but I actually don't. It's a card that I've just always liked using myself, although it's not so nice when it's used against me though, especially if I get gamed by it. No, I've always liked the card. There was even one point early on in 2015 where I was playing it over Mirror Force, because Shadows and Burning Abyss were big in the meta, and Mirror Force would do absolutely nothing against either of those decks. It would help them and not hurt them, so I played Magic Cylinder instead. Of course, Storming Mirror Force then came along and proved to be better. This was also a card that I was so tempted to put into my Dark Magician deck for the Endurance game I had with Weber's 5 in November, just as a way to deal with Malicious Bane. It wouldn't have helped against Endymion because it has targeting immunity, but it would have been a nice way to fend off Malicious Bane, and I even had a plan to try and use this to make him lose on his turn, so that when he brought in his Pendulum Magician rocket thing in the final duel, I would get the first turn, but then I ended up with too many traps, and I thought, okay, I need to cut down on traps and chill the hell out. I love it though. Coming in at number 8 is another love-hate card, Solemn Strike, something that I really like using myself, but it's just so annoying when used against me. This is my most preferred form of effect negation, I guess, even though there's a monster effect negate card that I kind of like more, which I'll go over later. But Solemn Strike is just really handy, just negating a monster effect and outright destroying it, and it doesn't target, which is great. It's also great for shutting down inherent special summons, and 1500 life points isn't much to give up. So it's just very handy, and I try and play it in every single deck I have. Otherwise I just settle for Fiendish Chain, which is the next best thing, even though it targets and doesn't destroy. Yeah, it's a very helpful card which can really help me get out of a jam. Number 7, Starlight Road. Now, as you know, Stardust Dragon is my favourite synchro monster, and I'm not going to say no to another way to bring it out onto the field, as well as protect my cards from being destroyed. You know, it's a brilliant hard counter to Judgment Dragon, Black Rose Dragon, Heavy Storm when it was legal. In fact, I actually started playing it in my Dark Magician deck again, to specifically counter Lightning Storm, which is a big problem for my deck, and also because Master Rule 5 is a thing, it gave me an excuse to put Stardust Dragon back in the extra deck. It's a big help anyway in Dark Magician decks, because I really don't want to lose Eternal Soul, that's for sure. Mind you, this can also negate the monster destruction effect of Eternal Soul, as long as I have 2 monsters on the field at least. So the idea is Eternal Soul leaves the field, its effect activates to destroy my monsters, chain Starlight Road, negate that destruction effect. It's just really annoying though that Royal Oppression and Solemn Warning can negate it, purely because it has an effect that involves special summoning, which is really annoying. In fact, I even remember once losing a match because of that stupid ruling. Because this was back in 2010 when X-Sabers were big in the meta, and I sided in Royal Oppression, but only to specifically counter X-Sabers and Gladiator Beasts, because I don't want to deal with Heraklinos, and I don't want to deal with the OTKing and hand looping that X-Sabers do. And then Heavy Storm got dropped on me while I had Oppression and a load of back row. I chained Starlight Road, and the opponent used roll oppression against me to negate it. I was like, but I'm not special summoning. So a judge was called over and it got ruled that oppression does negate this. Like, that was just absolute bullshit. All the same though, I love Starlight Road all the same. Number 6 is something that has been out for like a couple of years now, roundabout. Waking the Dragon. Oh my god, this card is incredible, and something that's beneficial to Dark Magician decks as well. I like using this to punish opponents that go after my back row, which is what they usually do when I play Dark Magician. Just try to get rid of my back row, stop me from being able to do something, but then they hit Waking the Dragon, boom, out comes Ultimate Falcon, which is the main monster that people normally summon off this. Although I think it was only a few months ago actually that I read it again and realised it could special summon from the main deck as well, not just the extra. But stuff in the extra deck is what you want to go for anyway. Yeah, it's particularly a big help against Altergeists I found last summer, because I remember a matchup where James C. from my locals was playing Altergeist, and he used Heavy Storm Duster on my back row, popped this, and I got our Ultimate Falcon, and he couldn't get rid of it. But I've also sided in other monsters to summon with this as well, like Blackwing Full Armor Master, which is a mini Ultimate Falcon, and Blue Eyes Alternative Ultimate Dragon, because they can be summoned off this. Plus it's an alternative way to bring Dark Magician the Dragon Knight out. It's just annoying that it depends too much on the opponent destroying it or banishing it, but I still love it. Number 5 is that other monster effect negator I mentioned earlier, Fiendish Chain. Because it does have its uses, even though Solemn Strike is arguably better. I mean, it's free for one thing. I'd say it's also basically a poor man's Solemn Strike, basically. Something I'd use if I don't have Solemn Strike going spare for a deck. But it's also more beneficial in Rainbow Neos, because I can send this to the grave to use Rainbow Neos' second effect. Like, usually, if it's locked or I don't need to keep it on an opponent's monster anymore. Still a great card. I'd play both if I could. Although, having said that, I actually do play both in my random All-Stars deck, because, you know, 1 copy per card deck. In at number 4 is Storming Mirror Force. Like, such a useful battle trap. Although I like Mirror Force more, this one's generally better, because it's an amazing way to get rid of monsters with targeting and destruction immunity, or have effects that involve preventing themselves from being destroyed. And this was what made me want to get a couple of boxes of Clash of Rebellion. Like, I remember I was after this and the Red Eyes support, and I pulled this from the first box I opened. It was awesome. And again, at the time, Burning Abyss and Shadows were big in the meta, and like I said, Mirror Force does nothing to them, and this is a good counter to them. Unfortunately though, it's not great if I have to use it on a monster that gets an effect when normal summoned, like Stratos or Skullcrabat Joker, but it's not really ideal unless you're absolutely desperate. I must also point out that this is also a love-hate card of mine. I like using it myself. It's annoying when used against me though. And coming in at number 3 is something similar, Drowning Mirror Force. Now, even though this can only be used on direct attacks, it's actually better than Storming Mirror Force because it puts attack mode monsters back into the deck, which is very, very helpful. I mean, because the deck is less accessible than the graveyard, hand and banished zone, and it just decreases the chances of the opponent drawing some cards that they need. Maybe not much at times, but it's still a big help, and is something worth playing in Dark Magician as well, because if Eternal Soul leaves the field and my monsters get wiped, this brings it online. It also brings it online if you're using the Spellbook engine and you have to get rid of Blue Boy to draw 2. Again, it's another card I hate being used against me though, especially if I'm facing Psy-Frames or Weather Painters. Yeah, they're not fun to play against, but I still love it all the same. In at number 2 is my original favourite trap, Mirror Force. This has been my absolute favourite trap card for many, many years until the top pick came along. Although it's kind of lost its lustre, and battle traps aren't really a thing, and storming and drowning are better, it's still a card that I absolutely love playing, and will play in absolutely every deck I have if I can. There are some decks that I don't play it in because there's no room, or it's not needed, like in the case of Blue Eyes and BLS, where you don't need traps in those decks. But I still like using it anyway. Yeah, it would just feel wrong not to, although it is annoying when people try and predict that I have it face down and try countering it. Even going as far as trying to predict what my other back rows are, like saying, that's a Mirror Force, that's a Solemn Strike, that's an Eternal Soul, and I'm like, dude, stop trying to predict what my face downs are! Yeah, it is also annoying when used against me though, but I still love it all the same. And finally, in at number 1, my absolute favourite trap in the game is Eternal Soul, knocking Mirror Force down a peg. I absolutely love this card, despite its stupid, pointless drawback. Now, when I first saw it, I loved it right away, and I just had to have it. So I was like, what's this? Something that specials Dark Magician from the hand or graveyard every single turn, and gives him immunity from opponent's card effects? Yes, please. Give it to me right now. Had to wait ages for it to come out though. I was kind of hoping it would be an OCG import in the Dark Illusion, but we didn't get it, and it still became difficult to play the deck. But then we got it in Legendary Decks number 2, and I was over the moon, and Dark Magician decks have just been better than ever, ever since we got it. So yeah, although I like Monster Reborn bringing Dark Magician out, this is my preferred way to do it, just constantly bringing back a Fallen one or special summoning one from the hand. Searching Dark Magic Attack or Thousand Lives is also nice too, but I like the special summon effect more, which is why I absolutely love it. Alright you guys, and that's it for my top 10 favourite trap card list. I hope you guys have enjoyed. If you did, leave a like, leave a comment, share, and subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. And let me know what your guys' favourite trap cards are. And on that note, I will catch you guys later. Stay safe, and see you later.